And we're back. This is the QB Lab podcast, the only show in the world dedicated to the greatest position in all sports, the quarterback position. We have a jam-packed episode. Oh my God, we got some crazy stuff coming your way. We are talking QB contenders and pretenders. We're going to break it down by the AFC and the NFC. So we're going to have a bunch of guys to talk about. We're talking about the guys that are serious players that we believe in and guys that are frauds, guys that are not who you think they are. I'm your host, Jake. This is my co-host, Zach, and we are the QB Lab podcast. Before we get into more stuff, smash that subscribe button, hit that like button. We need it. We need the support. We're growing. Slowly but surely, we are growing. So we're going to keep hitting you with great content. Please, please, please smash that subscribe button. Okay, I'm going to get right into it. My AFC Contenders. I'm going to give you my 4. Now, Zach's only going to be giving you 3 because he's holding one back, a secret, juicy one for later in the episode.
But Jake, you have no idea who it is. So we haven't actually revealed our list to each other. You're going to get our reactions live. We have no idea what the other one's about to say right
We have not talked for this. All we came up with was the concept for this episode. Neither of us have a clue who we have on this list. For all we know, one of us could be putting a kicker down as a quarterback. I don't know what could happen. AFC Contenders. I got Josh Allen, Drake Maye, Aaron Rodgers, and Justin Herbert. Those are my contenders. Those guys are serious AFC contenders, not just for playoffs. I mean, these guys are the real deal. These are winners through and through.
Okay, so Josh Allen, Drake, what is this Aaron Rodgers obsession? You got, I understand from the last episode that you're kind of changing your tune on him. He's coming off of a big win against the Baltimore Ravens from the weekend. So Aaron Rodgers, number 3, and now Justin Herbert. You are completely changing your tune here. Okay, so okay. So I have a similar list, bit different. My contenders, number 1, I got Josh Allen. Number 2, I've got Patty Mahomes. Number 3, I've got Drake Maye. And then number 4, I'm going to save for later, and I'm going to argue that they are more important than everybody else that we are discussing on this list. So, Allen, Maye, Mahomes, where do you want to start?
I mean, I know exactly where I want to start. Patrick Mahomes, are you kidding me? You have him as a contender? The guy has gotten worse and worse as the season has gone on. And what I just saw from him against the Houston Texans is a perfect example of why he is no longer a contender. I'm sorry. Patrick Mahomes was amazing, but he is a has-been. Patrick Mahomes is a has-been, in my opinion. I don't think he's the guy that everyone had thought he was. I think I didn't put him on my list. I don't have him as a contender, and I certainly don't have him as a pretender either. To me, he's not a has-been. He's a nothing. He's a never was.
Okay, you can't go as far as a never was, considering this is a guy that's won multiple Super Bowls. That's a hilarious thing to say. But let me just break it down for you. He leads the NFL, or at least at the quarterback position, in first downs. He's leading quarterbacks in scrambles. He's 3rd in passing yards, and he's still making good decisions. Now, are they putting up wins in the win column? No. Do I think that's Patrick Mahomes' fault? No. What we're seeing this year is a substantially worse offensive line. If I go into the data here and I look at the total number of pressures, where is Patrick Mahomes on? He's 3rd. So that offensive line is giving up the 3rd most number of pressures in the NFL behind Justin Herbert and Cam Ward. Cam Ward, the guy that I think is leading the NFL in sacks, he's 2nd, and Mahomes is a little bit behind. That's why he has to scramble more than he has. But the big reason for me as to why the Chiefs aren't putting wins in the win column are his passing options are dropping passes in big moments. We're seeing balls go through Travis Kelce's hands. We're seeing balls go through Rashee Rice's hands. We're seeing still an elite level of decision making from Patrick Mahomes, but the supporting cast on the O-line and in the receiving core is not up to the standard. And I know that we're talking about contenders versus pretenders. I think that the overarching narrative is that the Chiefs are out, but I am not really buying that. I know that the big nerds are saying the probability of making the playoffs is 15%, but I want to rattle off what that scenario actually is for you and get your take on whether or not this playoff probability is the actual playoff probability. Okay. So for the Chiefs to win, to get to the playoffs, they have to win out. So their remaining schedule is they're up against the Chargers, then the Titans, then the Broncos, and then the Raiders. Okay. This weekend is the game against the Chargers. I think that's the hardest game of the 4 for them. I'm not a big believer in this Broncos team. I think their record is significantly better than their actual ability. And we can go back.
No. That Broncos game with that defense, look what Mahomes just did against the Texans. Do you need me to remind you? He went 14 for 33, 160 yards passing, 3 interceptions. That's pathetic. I don't care what you say.
I don't think the Houston Texans are the Denver Broncos. Did you see what the Broncos did this past weekend?
They're almost the same thing. They're both elite defenses.
Yes, but the big thing there is I don't trust Bo Nix or that Denver offense whatsoever. So, like,
I don't trust CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans offense either.
Are we potentially going forward into the pretenders part of this AFC show?
Kind of making our way there. I mean, look, okay. I think I at least need to just end on this note.
Hold on. I still got to go through the rest of this Chiefs clip. All right.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
So for the Chiefs to win out, they have to beat the Chargers, the Titans, the Broncos, and the Raiders. Titans and the Raiders, that's easy. That's an easy 2 victories there. The Broncos and the Chargers, I think the Chargers are not an easy victory by any means, but I think the Spagnuolo defense is going to do very well against a Chargers offense that is not doing a good job stopping pressures right now. And like, to me, that's like a perfect Spagnuolo matchup. And then the Denver situation, they're only winning games by like a possession. Like, to me, that's at worst a coin toss, if not the Chiefs being favored there. Now, if it was just that, that'd be one thing. But then also, they need 2 other situations to happen. So they would also need the Colts to lose 2 of 4, which, like, Phillip Rivers is now the quarterback. I like, they might lose all 4 of these. I don't think that's like that contentious to say, where the Colts have the Seahawks, the Niners, the Texans, and the Jags. And they just lost to the Jags. Those are 4 really good teams. They could lose 0-4, and like, that's not like saying anything negative about the Colts, right? Then they need the Chargers to finish at least 1-3 in this series matchup. Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, Broncos. So if we're assuming the Chiefs win this weekend, which I concede, like, it's not a gimme by any stretch, but if they were to lose that one, they only have to go 1-2 against the Cowboys, Texans, and Broncos to be out. So the Chiefs getting that 4-0, I think, is not improbable. I think the Colts losing 2 of those 4 is the most likely scenario. And the Chiefs only going 1-3 against the Chargers only going 1-3 against the Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, and Broncos. I think that's likely going to happen. So it's really going to come down to, in your book, I guess, in that Chiefs Broncos game, that, you know, to me, it feels like we're higher than 15% odds here, right?
Honestly, I don't agree. I think the Chiefs are done. I've seen enough of them and seen how they've shown up in big moments this year. To me, they don't look like a playoff team by any means. Now, that doesn't mean they can't squeak in. Personally, I think they're going to go 2-2. I don't think they're beating the Chargers, and I don't think they're beating the Broncos. Okay. They're losing both of those teams. They're divisional games. They're hard games. And to your point, the Chiefs O-line has been awful. And however good Mahomes may have been, he doesn't have the magic this year. I just don't think he has it. I've seen enough. I've seen him against good defenses. I've seen him against not such good defenses. He doesn't look like quite the same guy. Now, part of that is obviously, I get it. You're looking at the stats. You're saying, well, Mahomes has been under pressure the third most. He's really had a tough time. He doesn't have all the options. To me, that just sounds like excuses. It's excuses for a player that I think has just lost a little bit of that hunger and that grind, which is to be expected. The guy's been winning Super Bowls. He's been in so many Super Bowls. He's had so much success. I think this is finally where we see the Chiefs franchise now take a step backwards, and that's perfectly normal. And there's nothing wrong with that. But to me, anyone out there who's watching and listening, I'm sorry. Mahomes was a fantastic quarterback. He's still super talented, but at this point, he's just not a contender this year. He has not done enough. He has not played consistent football. He's been way, way too reliant on running the ball. And to me, I've seen a lot of bad decision making from him. He does not look like the typical Patrick Mahomes that we've become accustomed to. And I think the Chiefs are done this year. I don't think they're making the playoffs. To be honest, I actually think 15% probability of them making the playoffs is way too generous. I think that it's more like 1 or 2% that they're actually really going to make the playoffs. I don't think it's likely.
All right, you're allowed to. Hey, that's your take. I think that Patrick Mahomes is a contender. I don't think the Chiefs necessarily are a contender this year, but Patrick Mahomes and what he's doing and the numbers he's putting up, if you're talking about I need the best field general in the NFL, I still think he's up there as a contender for me.
He is, but if you have one field general to pick, I mean, it's got to be Josh Allen.
Hey, I'm with you. Hey, this past weekend, I'm with you. This past weekend against the Bengals, fully there with you.
What he did to me, and he's done it now multiple times this season. He did it against the Bucs too, where he has just totally taken over games. He is the exact guy that a team like the Buffalo Bills needed or needs, because the Buffalo Bills roster is not very good, particularly on offense. Outside of James Cook, they don't have a good roster. They have, to your point with Mahomes, they have no receivers, just like the Chiefs. I would argue the Bills receiving corps is the worst receiving corps in the entire NFL. They have a good tight end in Dalton Kincaid, who's been injured constantly, and that's it. They have no one. I mean, they saw Brandon Cooks. They have Khalil Shakir. None of these guys are proper, even remotely number one receivers in the NFL at this moment. And Josh Allen is still putting up massive numbers. And to me, there is no one more deserving at this point of the MVP than Josh Allen.
Yeah, I gotta give a special shout out to my boy Jackson Hawes, because I think he's not getting the love he deserves in that roster. But we're talking about quarterbacks today, and nobody in the NFL is doing or has ever done what Josh Allen is doing. Like, to be able to, that play where he breaks away for a 50-yard touchdown, he essentially knows he's going to, like, there's one defender that's going to come at him because the O-line can't block all those guys. He's like, screw it. I'm putting the ball in my own hands. I'm going to dodge the first block. I'm going to go 50 yards to the house untouched for 50 yards. And even if he was touched, this is a guy that can break all of those. No one else at the quarterback position is doing that. And this has been my problem with Josh Allen for most of the season, where it feels like every play has been mostly a business decision, where he's trying not to run to be able to prevent injuries, which I think is smart to a point. But this is a must-win football game against that Bengals team based on how the playoff picture was breaking out. And that's when you got to throw caution to the wind, put the team on your back, do what you do, and make things happen. And I do think that overall, we do have to see Joe Brady get Khalil Shakir looking more like the 2024 form, because that was a sure-handed guy that when the chips were down, you knew could catch the ball. You just paid him to be a wide receiver one, and he's about the 23rd, 24th biggest contract among wide receivers. You got to perform like it. So Josh Allen, his decision making is where you want it to be. His performance is where you want it to be. And when he has permission to run, it changes the whole game, because now you can't just drop people into coverage and remove the separation from receivers. You have to bring more people into the box. And when that happens, you'll create more opportunities than what other offenses can do. And now that we've got a running Josh Allen, I think that from here to the end of the season, we're going to see defenses needing to square them up just a little bit differently.
And I think we're going to see what Josh Allen has been holding back, what we've all been waiting for, because through the majority of this season, the Bills' offense has been up and down. It's been a real roller coaster, and it's because of that reason that Josh Allen has almost been saving himself, or the offense has been saving and protecting Josh Allen. And now that their backs aren't quite against the wall, but they're, moving closer to the wall, especially given that they have a really tough shot at winning the division this year. Josh Allen's just exploded. Like, the shackles have come off. The guy's just being allowed to do whatever he wants. I mean, at the end of the game against the Bengals, it was 3rd and 15, and he ran for 17 or 18 yards to get the first down. That's just not something that we were seeing for months with the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. And to me, when you look at the playoff picture, and I don't want to go too much into it, but to me, the Buffalo Bills are probably one of the, if not the most dangerous wildcard team that we've seen in quite some time. And it's mainly because you have a player like Josh Allen, who's usually a division leader. And miraculously this year, the Patriots have pulled ahead. With that, you have Josh Allen and the Bills, who have not really shown everything they can do except for just this past week. And I think what we're seeing is an incredibly dangerous offense when you have a James Cook running the way he's running, and now Josh Allen running and passing the way he's, running and passing.
Yeah, so I think what we're talking about is there are two massive games happening this weekend that I can't wait to see the results for. The first is that Chiefs-Chargers game, and the second is the Bills-Patriots game, which I think comes to next contender. That's on the only other contender that's shared on both of our AFC lists, which is Drake Maye.
Drake Maye.
Drake Maye's doing a lot of good stuff. He's like number one, I believe, in completion percentage. I think he's dropped to number 2 in scrambles. I think his offensive line is really letting him down. But when they're letting him down, I would like to see his decision making improve quite a bit, because right now, if you take his pressure to sack percentage, he's a little bit higher than where he's 11th in the NFL with 22%. So 2 out of every 9 pressures that's happening are leading directly to a sack. That's a little bit too high for what you'd want to be able to see. But I'll throw it to you on Drake Maye, because I've got a stat for you later on. But what about Drake Maye's game is screaming out to you?
Yeah, to me, it's his poise and efficiency. Those are two key pieces that I've seen from him. One being poise, obviously, is just the gut check, the eyeball test. He looks confident, he looks comfortable, and then efficiency. I mean, simply put, the guy has almost 112 passer rating, and that to me tells me that he's making the right decisions at the right times. And then arguably what I love to talk about, that to me is the most important stat of them all. He's winning games. And I get it. The Patriots have a good team around him, but he is the leader of that offense, and he's doing a heck of a job. And you got to be impressed with how young, like, and I know this isn't exactly something that we talked about, given, age and potential and everything, but it has to come into that discussion when we're looking at contenders, not only who's performing well now, but where they're going to go. And to me, when we see what Drake Maye is becoming, it's, as a Bills fan, it's scary, because the potential of this guy at this age is just astronomical. So to me, you got to have him as a pretender. You got to have him as a contender, because he's winning games and he's doing it at a very efficient clip.
He's doing an efficient clip. I would say his competition that he's faced so far, like if we compare schedules, there's a little bit to be desired. I do want to see what happens this weekend, though, because if they beat the Bills twice, I'm going to have to eat my words on a competitive schedule because he clearly is big time. The only other, and when we're talking about these contenders, we're really picking at straws here. We're generally saying, hey, this is an elite quarterback. But if I'm trying to compare him to Josh Allen, I've got a stat for you, Jake. How many games this season do you think Drake Maye has passed for 300 yards or more?
I think it's low because I know he's been efficient and stuff, but they've also had some big chunk leads and he hasn't necessarily needed to. I'm going to say twice.
He's done it 0 times.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
and the max rushing yards he has in the game, I think, is something like 50. So it's not
Yeah.
like he's also rushing for like an
Yeah.
egregious number of yards here. Drake Maye hasn't been in a situation yet this season where he's needed to just put the team on his back and make it happen. Like a lot of these, but actually the Tampa Bay game was close. The Cincy game is close. But in a lot of these situations,
clips 300. That's
he hasn't
a significant, like I actually liked you bring that up because before the Bills got Josh Allen, I remember always just wishing that we could have a quarterback that could regularly throw for 300 yards and 2-3 touchdowns and look elite. So to me, the fact that he's never thrown 300 yards, I get it. He hasn't needed to. But what's going to happen when he does need to? And this is the exact comment, and this is exactly why I don't want to get too far into it, but this is exactly the whole Jalen Hurts conversation. Because it's always like, yes, he wins a lot of games, but does that make you elite? And yes, he's very efficient, but does that make you elite? You know, if you're not throwing 300-400 yards and running for 70-80 yards, are you truly elite? I mean, I think that the elite conversation, I think there's a lot of factors that come into it. I would say the reason Drake Maye's in it mainly is because he's finding ways to win and he's doing it in a nice manner. He looks calm. He looks legit. He looks like a leader. That to me is why I have an elite category. However, there's easily an argument that you can make. Well, hey, look, he hasn't really been tested. He's not playing great teams. He hasn't had to throw the ball a whole lot. How can you really consider him elite? So I see the argument. I at least have him as a contender. Do I have him anywhere near MVP race? No. And I do know a lot of people are saying, oh, he's in the MVP. No. Drake Maye is nowhere near MVP caliber for the plain reason that he hasn't had to do that much. Like, you already named it. So to me, that's enough to say, hey, look, he's a good quarterback. He shows a lot of potential. He's a contender. He's nowhere near MVP type caliber.
yeah, the thing that I'm seeing here is I want to see Drake Maye have to handle a bit more adversity to really see what he's made of before trying to say he's like that guy. But I still think right now, if I'm comparing his stats, I'm comparing what he's doing on the field in his production. I think he's elite. And I'll even say this. I don't think that we've seen the best of what he can do yet. Because I think when we do get him in a situation where they do need to rely on his arm, I think he's like at least 80% of the way going to pull through. And when that happens, I think we're going to see him reach a ceiling that we haven't seen him reach just yet.
Speaking of a guy who's reached incredible levels of success and who has had a couple decent games this year, however, has not eclipsed 300 passing yards the entire season as I look at the stats here. My boy, my savior, Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
He is a contender, and I'll tell you why he's a contender. He is currently leading the division. He is leading a team that is not that good, and he's leading them in the charge to make the playoffs, win the division. And again, this comes down to efficiency. He hasn't had to do a lot, but when he's asked to come up with big plays, he has. I mean, at the end of the day, it's hard to argue when you have a just under 100 passer rating, 20 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Again, I get it. He hasn't done a lot on the stats sheet. But if you've watched him, he's had some bad moments. I get it. But at the end of the day, you've got to trust the guy who finds ways to win. It doesn't have to be pretty. Like, I'm talking about Drake Maye, who's looked really pretty and clean. Aaron Rodgers has not been that. It's a totally different scenario here. This is a guy who has proven year in and year out that he can win and win at a high rate. And again, he's doing it again this year. He's finding ways to win. It's not pretty, but he's winning games, and in big moments, he's coming up with big plays. What else do you want? You want a guy who knows how to win. He's done it before. What else do you need to see? Enough said.
No, not enough said. There's so many easy counterpoints that you're leaving open here for me. Jake, I'm going to ask this rhetorically because I know the answer to this question is yes. But did you watch him against the Buffalo Bills? Yes, you did. This is a guy where, like, teams are just killing the Bills because the defense has been absolutely terrible. The Pittsburgh Steelers put up 7 points against that not great defense. I think what's going on here is, like, sure, he had a good game against
Baltimore. Game of the season.
Sure, but then if you also look, it's not like he had a particularly good game against Cincinnati a couple weeks before that either. The Chargers have a for real defense, so I didn't want to go there. But the Colts, I guess they pulled out a victory, but he effectively wasn't the reason that win happens. That's more because the Pittsburgh defense effectively figured out how to shut Jonathan Taylor down. He had an okay game against Green Bay. He had a great game. Sorry?
He had a good game in Cleveland. That's a legitimate defense.
That is legit, but like even that like okay game against Green Bay, he still pulled out a loss there. This is a guy. Yeah, they beat Baltimore in this last week, which was like a must-win game for both teams. Like that's what you want to see when the chips are down. But overall, this is a team that's just marginally above 500. When we get to the playoffs, I do think they're an easy first-round exit, which makes it difficult for me to say, hey, Aaron Rodgers here is a contender. And there's a lot of stats I could choose from as to why Aaron Rodgers, for me, is almost immediately disqualified. But an easy one is he's the lowest in the league in average depth of target. He's tied for lowest. Do you want to know who he's tied with for lowest in the league in average depth of target, which, by the way, 6.4 yards. Do you know who he's tied with? He's tied. It's worse than that. He's tied with Dylan Gabriel and Kyler Murray. So, like, being able to sling the ball downfield when you need to in those third and long situations is a cornerstone of playoff success. You really can't get around it. And this is a guy who just doesn't have that ability to see. Now, what I will say is I do think he's improving. Like, I think the Aaron Rodgers we saw in the first couple of weeks was a lot worse than we've seen. Like, for him to get a rushing touchdown, despite the fact that you in those beginning weeks of the season were calling Aaron Rodgers a statue, incapable of general movement, this is a big improvement, right? So we're starting to see Aaron Rodgers get a bit more comfortable in his Pittsburgh offense. But for you to put him as your number 3 contender, despite the list of the other quarterbacks you got in the AFC, I think you're just beating this drum and you're like trying to avoid karma coming for you at some point based on all of the slander you hit him with at the beginning of the season. But this is a guy.
Believe in Aaron.
Good. There are people that believe in a lot dumber things, so that's not that crazy, I guess. But overall, this is a guy not deserving of your belief.
Let me finish with the Aaron Rodgers topic by saying this. You're saying he's not a contender, right? Because of all those reasons. Yeah. But if all those reasons are true, then he definitely isn't a pretender because if his stats suck, he's not pretending.
He is on my pretender list.
But he's not pretending. If his stats are bad, then he would be bad, right? There's no pretending.
So the way that I broke it down is the people that I think will achieve playoff success or have the potential to achieve playoff success, and the people that I think will be bounced early. I think Aaron Rodgers will be bounced early.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't disagree that that's a possibility. I just think at the end of the day, I have him there for the plain reason that he's finding ways to win. Pretty,
Okay.
not pretty, dinking and dunking, it's working. Whatever he's doing, it's working. And it's not
Okay.
pretty, but it's working.
And then your number 4 of your contenders list, I actually almost had as my number 4. I almost had him as my number 4. I just left him off the list as I was reviewing the footage of last night's game. But I don't hate you for that. Like, the fact that he's below Aaron Rodgers is also ridiculous to me on your list. I'll let you go with it first because you went off on me last time for liking Justin Herbert. And boy, do the times change. What's going on with you this time around?
Okay, so 2 things. The 3 and 4 spot in my contenders, it could go either way. So I wouldn't look too far into that. However, I made a 180 because, after we spoke, I spent some time. I watched some more content on Herbert, looked through the stats again, looked at the team record, and said, hey, this guy is fucking good, man. And he's got some abilities that remind me of Josh Allen. And I love Josh Allen, so how can I not love Justin Herbert? And he's got a pretty hot girlfriend, and he can chuck the ball, and he's pretty cool looking, and he plays for a sick team in LA. So fuck it. Like, he's a contender. I mean, at the end of the day, he's in a really hard division. Okay. But he's had some big wins this year. Now, my big thing about Herbert is doesn't win in big moments. Well, he kind of just did. And I'm not saying he's elite. There's 2 different things here. The conversation about whether or not he's an elite quarterback is not the same conversation to me as who is a contender. When I look at elite, I expect close to perfection or something so unique about the player. And I don't think he has that yet, which is why he still doesn't crack my elite list. But he cracks my contender list because he is a really good quarterback with a lot of really great aspects to his game. And he is winning a lot of games, but he does have a lot of dud games. So I just don't feel like he can totally be trusted. But when I look at the AFC, who are the best quarterbacks? You kind of have to have him near the top of that list.
Yeah, I think I view him the same way too. I think I was viewing contenders as me putting the elite stamp on them. So that's why I hesitated to put him on my contender list. But overall, after my list of, Allen, Mahomes, May, I would say that Herbert rationally comes next. I'm not afraid of that take on it. Now, I don't necessarily view him as a contender for a lot of what I saw out of that Philadelphia Eagles game last night. And what I want to point out is I can't really put you in a contender spot if you're manufacturing field goals in critical moments. The NFL comes down to, can you stamp in 7 or are you settling for 3? And the difficulty here is I don't even think I'm fully blaming Justin Herbert for this. Like, if I'm looking at the data here, there are 216 pressures to him on the season. For context, second place on this list is Cam Ward at 191. So more than 10% more pressures than that atrocious offensive line from the Tennessee Titans. But overall, though, Justin Herbert, I do like the stats. He's got 22 touchdowns for 11 interceptions. He's still got a 65% completion percentage, despite the fact that he's had to scramble more than I think he's had to scramble in his whole career. He's got 40 scrambles, which puts him 4th in that list, which then makes his time to throw go up to a 2.92 clip. So this is a guy that's under more duress, under more pressure than he's had to have been in his whole career, and he's still racking up wins. But the difficulty is in these big plays and in these big moments where it's the difference between 3 points versus 7 points. Unfortunately, against the Eagles, he's come up with more field goals than touchdowns. And thankfully, he's probably got the 3rd best defense in the NFL supporting him, because otherwise, I don't think the number of wins would be as high as it currently is.
Fair. So who are there's one contender left on your list.
Okay.
Are we going
So
through it now or are we still
yeah,
waiting?
yeah. No, I think the
This is
fourth
the
biggest
moment.
contender out of the AFC after Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Drake Maye is not a quarterback. And in the AFC, it's the Houston Texans defense. I think that's, I think if I had to, I would say that's the biggest X factor in the AFC right now.
Ooh,
And
okay.
you and I have had these conversations, right? We both know the quarterback is the most important position in football, but I don't think we've seen a defense as good as the Houston Texans defense in quite some time.
I
This is a defense
said
that,
this to you the other day. The Houston Texans defense is one of the best defenses I've seen in my lifetime. I've seen some good Ds. This defense is gotta be one of, maybe the best. I mean, the dominance against really, really good and mobile quarterbacks is ridiculous. Like, they made Mahomes look like garbage, like a
yep,
has been, like a never was. They made Josh Allen look like he was back in backyard ball where interceptions don't matter and incompletions don't matter. Their
they sacked him
defense
8 times. They sacked him
is
8 times. It's the
ridiculous.
most of
Yeah,
his career. Like this defense, like I think this defense is more impactful than Justin Herbert is for the Chargers. And that's why I struggled to put Justin Herbert on my list because I don't because me putting Justin Herbert on my list suggests that I think the Chargers have a better shot in the playoffs than the Texans, and I don't. And that's crazy because I got their quarterback on my pretender list, but this Houston Texans defense is phenomenal at all three levels. When you've got two outside defensive ends in Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson that both have 10 plus sacks on the season, no quarterback is safe. And if that's the case, that's going to be more impactful than what most of these AFC quarterbacks can reasonably achieve.
fair. Pretenders. This is going to be interesting.
Okay, your list first, and I'll give you mine, okay?
So here are my pretenders: Joe Burrow, Bo Nix, Trevor Lawrence, and I'm sure you have this guy. I think you already alluded to this, CJ Stroud.
Okay, perfect. So my list is very similar to yours. We both have Knicks. We both have Trevor Lawrence. We both have CJ Stroud instead of Burrow because I don't, they're not making it to the playoffs as far as I'm concerned. But if we want to have some fun on Burrow, happy to let's do that. I think you and I have pretty similar views on Burrow, although I do think what I saw mostly out of this game against the Bills was really strong performance out of Burrow. But my fourth is Aaron Rodgers in terms of pretenders, because as we've already talked about, I just don't see the Steelers going far in the playoffs. But we can talk about the other three, but let's start off with Burrow.
Yeah, Burrow. I mean, what can I say? He's a pretender. He's a loser. The team sucks, and he's part of the problem. Bad attitude. Don't like the guy. So I stuck him there. I mean, look, he's had moments of brilliance this year. Obviously, he's been injured, so it's really tricky. But honestly, I just the the bad from Burrow is really bad. Like, when he is good and he is on, it's incredible to see. In the pocket, as a pocket passer, he is about as good as it gets. But outside of that, as soon as he needs to move, as soon as he desperately needs to make a play, as we just saw against the Bills, he coughs up the ball. He makes mistakes. And I don't think he takes enough ownership. I simply don't like Joe Burrow, and I would say that's the primary reason why he's on my pretender list. And honestly, I am just loving that he's losing. Like, I am loving that the Bengals are pretty much done. It makes me feel so good because I hate him and I hate the Bengals and I just want to see that team burn. Like, I'm loving this.
Oh man. So Burrow, I think the data actually bears out a lot of what you've just said. Although I don't think it'll ever replace the humor that you had behind your words. But when Burrow's at his top, there's very few people that can really sling it with him. Like he's leading now. Keep in mind he hasn't played that many games this season, so you're dealing with a bit of a small sample size. But he's leading the league in big time throw percentage with 7.2%. Number two on that list, I'm going to save that because we're going to talk about the
Granted,
contenders and
he has incredible receivers. Like, I mean, incredible.
incredible. But like the second touchdown pass against the Bills with
Yeah,
T. Higgins, T. Higgins deserves most of like
correct.
it's
No, he
it
does.
isn't
He deserves most of the credit. That was a ridiculous. It was a good throw, but it was an even better catch.
the placement of the ball is absolutely ridiculous. But T. Higgins, to be able to get that right foot down first before that ball comes in is what makes that touchdown. Otherwise, most receivers in the NFL are out of bounds for that play. So that's just great quarterback, great receiver. Whichever percentage you want to allocate to the quarterback versus the wide receiver, I'm down for both sides of the argument there. When Joe Burrow is at his top, he's hard to sling it with. But like Jake, the thing that Joe Burrow's data is telling me, he's got a 59.3% completion percentage. Below 60% puts
Bad.
you in a really bad spot, and it's hurting his overall QB rating, which puts him below 100
It's
in that
bad.
area. So now the
That's why
the
he
mistakes
belongs as a
this
pretender. So the stats are matching my opinion.
yeah, to a point. But the two like before those two interceptions, which were horrific interceptions, like
Yeah.
giving up a pick six in that spot is unforgivable. Sure. But if you take those two plays away from the record, he doesn't have an interception on the season. So he is getting better in certain elements of his game. And it's difficult for me to like fully do like a full blown assault on Joe Burrow when he's played so few games this season. But at
No,
60%
it's
completion
okay.
percentage,
No, it's okay. You can go on a full assault. No, it's all right.
all right. Like Joe Burrow is dealing with wide receivers that make him look exceptionally good. They even made Joe Flacco look elite at what, 39 or
How
40 at different points in
how
the
about
season.
that? That's a key factor. I didn't even bring that up. Okay.
Yeah. So like
They made
there's
Joe,
arguments there.
yeah, they made Joe Flacco look incredible. And the other Joe Burrow, he's not a contender and he's not a nothing. He's a pretender.
All right, I'm with you there.
The
Good on
next
Joe
three,
Burrow or okay.
yeah, we got Bo Nix, Trevor Lawrence, and CJ Stroud. I mean, to me, I almost group these three together. Now, two of
Okay.
them are having great success. Bo Nix, Trevor Lawrence. I talk about wins, everything else. They're getting wins. They're leading their divisions. But if you actually watch them, they're pretenders, right?
Yeah,
I think we can agree there.
I've got a fun one for you.
Yeah,
Out of Bo Nix, Trevor Lawrence, and CJ Stroud, which one do you think is statistically superior? If you had to guess, which one would you expect?
I would expect Bo Nix to be the best.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I thought this was going to be, it's Trevor Lawrence. Trevor
Oh,
Lawrence's data is the best of the bunch. He's got a great win also against the Chiefs. Like there have been some like clear moments where he's actually
hey, he's
tried
looked
to
good in
show
some moments. Yeah.
he's looking, but here's the thing. I'm not crediting any of this to Trevor Lawrence. Who I want to credit this is to Liam Cohen. And
Mm.
I think that the biggest piece of evidence for this is, oh, do I save this for the NFC package? No, screw it. I'm bringing it up. The Baker Mayfield has taken a significant step back this season. And I think seeing the Baker Mayfield step back and the Trevor Lawrence progression a little bit up shows how big coaching really is in the NFL. The Jaguars are putting up wins despite the fact that the Travis Hunter experiment hasn't led to that production of wins. And I do think Trevor Lawrence is being put in positions to succeed by how good that coaching has been. Now, that being said, I do think this stops once we get to the psychological part of the game, once we get to the playoffs, once there's real pressure. And I just don't see him doing a Super Bowl run. I just don't think he's got it in him. I don't think his decision making is strong enough. And I do think, mentally speaking, he doesn't have the same edge in the same adversity that a lot of the other quarterbacks have shown.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I would make an argument, and this is why I had Bo Nix just above him. I would argue, Bo Nix has a little bit more of that grit to him versus Trevor Lawrence, which is why I sort of believe in him slightly more. But for the exact reason you're talking about, I have the same feeling about Bo Nix, and CJ Stroud for that matter. I think that those two guys are being supported heavily by really good supporting casts, particularly with the defense. I think when we look at both of those guys, I think the teams are good. I think the defenses are outstanding, and I think they're being carried by that. I don't think either of those guys, are anywhere near being contenders. I don't look at either of those guys leading their teams in any regard, and I don't see them being key pieces to the wins. I think it's all defense. I feel like you'd probably agree with that.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I actually want to just touch on Bo Nix just a little bit because I think Sean Payton's an incredible coach. I think that Bo Nix is scrambling less. He doesn't take many sacks, but when I was watching this Raiders game over the weekend, there's so many situations where I see Bo Nix, like he's got tons of space in front of him, could be doing an easy scram. I just don't trust Bo Nix to make sound decisions. And his average depth of target is like only around 8. That's not really where you want that data to
Subpar.
be. It's subpar, but like he's got 19 touchdowns for 9 interceptions, which isn't bad, but his completion percentage is below 65%. It's at 63%. So, like, if I'm Sean Payton, I actually in this offseason have to think about, is Bo Nix really my guy? Or can I get someone in here? Like, if there was like a Sam Darnold or someone like in that caliber where I might be overpaying, but I'm willing to do like a substantive step up, I think that's what's in the best interest for the Broncos organization.
It's funny, yeah, the Sam Darnold piece. Yeah, I mean,
I just
it's
bring him up
tricky to,
because he was a free agent last
yeah,
offseason, right? Like he's obviously not going to be on the market this time around. But if I have someone that's like
yeah,
proven to
who's
be a bit
maybe
above
better.
average
It's
that can then
tricky.
work with Sean Payton, I'm pulling that trigger.
I think we need to see what Denver does in the playoffs before making that decision. Because at the end of the day, yes, Bo Nix has not done anything particularly impressive, and just you going through those stats, nothing jumps off the page as impressive. However, in the playoffs, let's see if he makes some magic, right? Because that would change everything. Like if they win even one game because of him or one quarter because of him, and it really shows, then I think I feel differently. But I definitely think at the very least he's taken a big step backwards. There's no question that Bo Nix does not look like the same player as last season. I think a lot of people had hoped he was going to take that step forward, and he simply didn't.
If they succeed, it'll be similar to when the Denver Broncos had Peyton Manning for their second Super Bowl run, where it's
Potentially.
really because of the people around him and not because of the quarterback.
Yeah, which look, and if that happens, I still don't think they're moving on from Bo Nix quickly because again, to the talk about a guy like a Jalen Hurts that we've talked about before, if they're winning with the guy, do you move on from him? I mean, there's arguments. There were moments where Russell Wilson wasn't the best player on Seattle. You don't move on from something that's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm of that belief. So, I think if they're finding ways to win, even if it's not totally from him, as long as he's not part of the problem, he's part of the solution.
Okay, before we wrap up the AFC, we have to talk about the Colts quarterback situation. We just have to.
Yeah.
Philip Rivers at 44? What are we doing here?
I honestly, it's funny because we talked about this in the offseason that I said Riley Leonard landed himself in the greatest position possible because if it falls in his hands, he's got a good shot. Now, he did absolutely nothing with his limited opportunity. And I guess the Colts just were desperate enough to go, hey, let's give a veteran a call. Now, I
But
will
Riley
say
sustained
this.
an injury. Riley sustained an injury. So if
Yeah,
he didn't
but
get
it's
injured,
not
I actually think
major.
they roll with him.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Well, look, here's what I'll say, and it rolls perfectly with my Aaron Rodgers argument. Rivers has proven that he can be an elite quarterback, just like Aaron Rodgers. Give him a shot.
So
It
what I
can't
love
possibly have gotten worse for them.
So I love the idea that the quarterback for LaDainian Tomlinson now gets to be the quarterback for Jonathan Taylor. I do love that. But the difficulty here is we're bringing a literal grandfather to the table here. This is a guy who, like, if you thought Aaron Rodgers was done, this is a completely other level of, like, we saw Ragno try to come out of retirement. Like, is Philip Rivers going to pass his physical? Like, the other piece of it too is, like, you know how many people had to have said no for them to get to Philip? Like, Andrew Luck is 36. That would have been a phenomenal, like, Andrew Luck was an absolute horse of a prospect. Like, this is a man that, like, would have been great in this situation, especially with this organization. For them to have got to Philip Rivers is absolutely insane. Like, Cam Newton is chilling on the sidelines. RG3, like, there's so many guys that are at least younger.
But Rivers had success with the Colts in the past.
I don't care. He's 44. He's an actual grandfather. Like, there's.
Didn't want to call Tom Brady.
Tom Brady, I don't know if he's allowed to if he's got ownership stake in the Raiders.
Yeah, he'd have to give up the ownership.
Which, like, no shot. And he's already got set. Although he could get to 8. Oh my God, that would have been amazing.
As an owner, though, wait a second. Does that mean Tom Brady could play for the Raiders if he wanted to?
Maybe, but, like, I don't know if you, like, Geno Smith's getting sacked so much right now.
I think the Raiders could use Brady.
I think Brady's an improvement over Geno Smith for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, that's okay. You know what I'm actually most pissed off about in terms of this Philip Rivers situation? The fact that he's coming in for this episode. I didn't get to talk about how I thought Daniel Jones was a pretender, and I was on that very early on. Like, I was on that saying those first 3 weeks were going to be a small sample size in terms of, you know, his stats being relatively inflated until the Pittsburgh Steelers showed the rest of the NFL how you defend against the Indianapolis Colts. Fast forward, he fractures a fibula, which, by the way, massive shout out to Daniel Jones playing through a fractured fibula. And then he's like, you know what? I'm going to lose the other leg to an Achilles tear. Why not? But that removed the opportunity for me to explain to the world that I was right, despite the comments saying I was wrong, that Daniel Jones was a pretender this whole time.
You called it early on, saying that it wasn't real. It was a smokescreen. You know, the guy was beaten on bad teams and yada, yada, yada. You were right. He is a total pretender. I mean, look, it sucks for him because it was a contract season. I feel for Daniel Jones. Pretender or not, he put up some great numbers. There was some hope and some potential brought to Indianapolis. And now I don't know what happens to him. Honestly, I don't know. Contract-wise, I don't know what he's going to end up with, because I think he ends up in another prove-it situation if he's lucky enough to get healthy enough to get that opportunity, especially because I think Philip Rivers is taking this opportunity and just running with it.
I think Philip Rivers, like no joke,
running to retirement with it.
I think he's running to a hospital with an advanced showing of CTE. Because here's the thing. If you're playing the Indianapolis Colts defense, if you're playing that Indianapolis Colts offense, what you're doing is you're stacking the box, similar to what the Steelers did against Jonathan Taylor, and you're making it so Philip Rivers has as little time to throw as possible. And if he doesn't hit Alec Pierce or Josh Downs in the seam, because they're not going to give him enough time to do a go ball to Pittman,
I don't know if he can throw a go ball, but
yeah. So, like, are we seriously taking a Philip Rivers that's like a borderline HOF candidate and saying, hey, how many games until you're in the hospital too? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah,
because that's a dangerous experiment.
Yeah.
All right.
Business is business. It's just business.
I mean, like he is the guy who is the quarterback for LaDainian Tomlinson. I'm worried we're
Yeah,
all going to
it's
remember him
crazy.
as the guy that had advanced stages of CTE when he really didn't need to.
I'm going to remember Phillip Rivers as a guy with the strangest throw I've ever seen. Never
It's
seen a
fast.
release like that.
It's
It's
fast though.
fast,
That time to
but
throw
it's
was elite in his
strange.
time. Yeah,
Yeah,
did the
yeah.
job. Did the job.
So we got NFC. We're going to just nail off the contenders and pretenders and get through those. NFC contenders for me: Matt Stafford, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, and my one and only, the guy I love, Jared Goff.
Okay. My contenders in the NFC. I'm already laughing because my pretenders are going to make you so mad. My contenders in the NFC, Matthew Stafford. I think that's like, he might be the
No-brainer.
MVP at the end of this season, by
He's
the
got
way.
a real opportunity. It's him or Josh Allen.
Which is crazy at his age. But Matthew Stafford, I got Sam Darnold, I've got Jared Goff,
Okay.
and I've got Dak Prescott.
Oh, this is gonna be fun. Okay. First
Okay, should we
things
do?
first.
Let's do pretenders next because
Pretenders.
yeah.
Baker Mayfield,
Okay.
Sam Darnold,
Okay.
Dak Prescott,
Okay.
and Caleb Williams.
Okay. So my pretenders, I actually have 5 for the NFC. Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, Brock Purdy. I'm putting in that list because
I had him on the list as my 5th.
The Niners are probably making the playoffs just based on
Yeah.
current positioning, and then Caleb Williams as well. So we're agreed on, I'd say, half our lists and disagreeing on the other half.
And there's one thing before we get into anything: Brock Purdy as our quote unquote 5th. Honestly, Mac Jones should be starting for the 49ers.
Oh, I agree with that.
Contender. If he was starting the whole season, I actually think he belongs in the contender category. He deserves to be starting.
Justice for Mac Jones here. Brock Purdy is showing an inability. We're gonna get to it, but not justice for Mac Jones. I'm with you there.
Yeah.
Also, just now that it's coming back to me, back to the Colts. I think that the NFL should step in and make Jameis Winston be the quarterback for the Colts, just for the entertainment value for the league. I think it's for the good of the fans. I think it's for the good of the people. Justice for Jameis Winston while we're at it. Sorry. Now go back to the real stuff.
All right. So my contenders, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of discussion here. Matt Stafford, guy's been unbelievable. Arguably the MVP this year, him, Josh Allen, they're in the thick of it. Teams winning an insane clip.
What I want to do is point out how special Stafford is, because
ridiculous.
So he's just chilling in the pocket, he's standing up in the pocket like a boss and delivering absolute dots in very small amounts of space to both Puka Nacua, and he's leveraging Devontae Adams as the ultimate red zone cheat code. Nobody else is squeaking in passes the way Stafford is. It's special and it needs to be appreciated.
Yeah, no, it's Matt Stafford. The thing is with him, I've always loved his ability to throw at every single angle. Yeah. The guy knows how to fit the ball in so many different places, and he's doing it this year at probably the best clip I've ever seen him do it at least in a long, long time, since Megatron days. So yeah, gotta love Matt Stafford and everything he's been doing this year.
Totally.
Jordan Love, I have as number 2. I mean,
okay. Before that, let's go to the ones is the only other one that we agree on the contenders list. Jared Goff.
So Jared Goff. Jared Goff again. He's been great. I don't know. I think that honestly, I think he's being forgotten a little bit because I think Detroit's, in the thick of it. They're not leading the division. They're in a tough situation. They've had some tough games. But if you actually watch Jared Goff and some of the things he's doing, I don't see how you don't have him as a contender?
So I do. Thankfully, you and I are on the same page here. His NFL QB rating is 110.2. He's leading the NFL in adjusted completion percentage. So this is completion percentage. If it's adjusted for things like drops and other things that are kind of outside of the quarterback's control, he is the most precise quarterback in the NFL right now. Now, does he have great talent around him? Of course, but he is showing elite levels of decision making. And if the Detroit Lions do find their way into these playoffs, I don't think there's a single team that wants to go against that offense.
Yeah, they're super dangerous. And to your point about the roster around him, it should be noted he doesn't have Ben Johnson. And everyone was saying, oh, what's he going to do without Ben Johnson? How is Jared Goff going to fare without great coaching? He's doing it. He's still
Okay.
doing it. He's still producing big numbers. Now we got a couple contenders that we don't agree on. Jordan Love,
Yep.
I got him there because the guy has looked good in a lot of moments. He's had some tough moments, but I believe in him. Like, simply put, I believe in him. He's found ways to win. He, I, honestly, this is another unique thing that I've never seen. His off-platform ability to throw accurately is like nothing I've ever seen before. Honestly, half the time this guy's throwing the ball, he's falling backwards on one foot and he's able to throw accurately. I think you have to be impressed with what you've seen from him. He's a young quarterback. He's doing it in a really tough situation, in a tough division. And I think he looks pretty damn good.
I see a bunch of plays out of Jordan Love where I'm like, why is that the decision you're making? And I do think a lot of the early success was them leveraging Tucker Kraft to his farthest extent. And Josh Jacobs requires defenses to play them more favorably than other quarterbacks. My situation for Jordan Love is if I put him as the quarterback for some of these other offenses, I don't necessarily view them as, like, for instance, if I put them in the Detroit Lions offense, I've got more confidence in Jared Goff as a field general than Jordan Love, who I often find is making really strange decisions. And now that Tucker Kraft isn't there, he doesn't have that check down ability. He has been making great plays to Christian Watson downfield. I do love they got Jaden Reed back. But I do think that a lot of that happens because of how teams need to load the box against Josh Jacobs. Otherwise, they are going to get burned. I just don't think Jordan Love as the quarterback or in a third and long situation is the guy that I want handling the football.
Here's a stat for you. You're the stats guy in our
Let's
show.
do it.
So I think you're going to like this. Where is he ranked, Jordan Love, in QB rating, which is ESPN's way of basically determining the quality of a
He's
quarterback in
fourth.
any given season?
He's fourth.
No, he's second at 73 QBR on
I've
ESPN.
got it's Matthew Stafford, then Drake Maye, then Jared Goff, then Jordan Love.
It's not what ESPN has.
Okay, PFF has him
ESPN,
at fourth.
fine, but ESPN has him at 2. And even fine, even if you want to say, okay, well, PFF has him at 4. We have 8 contenders. You don't think he makes it in the top 8 when he's ranked number 4 on PFF and number 2 on ESPN? To me, that should be more than enough to build a case around, hey, Jordan Love's for real. This guy's a contender.
Yeah, look, he's a kind of guy that I would put. Okay, it just depends on your definition of contender. Then I would put him among quarterbacks around 11th and 12th. I think there's about 10 other quarterbacks that I trust more to manage my offense, especially if we find ourselves normalizing for the level of talent that is around the quarterback.
So you trust Phillip Rivers more than him, no?
I do not.
Aaron
Maybe in
Rodgers?
like 1984. Just kidding. Like 2003.
How
Sure.
about Aaron
But
Rodgers?
no, I've got Jordan Love ahead of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Fair.
I had Aaron Rodgers as a pretender too. So I think that Jordan Love, if you're saying he's like second or fourth or whatever in QB rating, I think that once we get to the playoffs, I don't think that ranking stands. I don't think he'll live up to that data.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll have to see. There's
We'll
another
see.
guy who does often live up to the data when it comes to playoffs and big moments. Jalen Hurts. I got the guy as a contender. I rag on him. But at the end of the day, and I always say this, Jalen Hurts is a winner through and through. Now, it's funny that I'm saying it now because he literally just lost. But at the end of the day, the guy does generally, on average, find ways to win with his legs, with his arm, whatever it might be. Again, he's not an elite passer, but he is a contender as a quarterback. You have to have him as a contender. The guy goes to the Super Bowl. He finds ways to win. Regardless, yes, he's got a great team around him, but he's a winner. Jalen Hurts has winning DNA. There's nothing else that matters. Tom Brady had winning DNA. Peyton Manning, it took him a while, but he had winning DNA. Patrick Mahomes had winning DNA. That is the most important stat. Aaron Rodgers has winning DNA.
Okay, Jake, I'm just going to make you do my counterpoint for me. What'd you think of last night's game?
Look, every player has good moments and bad moments. And at the end of the day, no one is going to be perfect throughout the season. We've seen this from great quarterbacks. We've seen bad quarterbacks have great games. We've seen great quarterbacks have bad games. I don't think he's an elite passer. However, the guy generally, on average, finds ways to win at a higher clip than most other players. And I would pick him over most guys.
Jake, there's this one play from last night's game that is like the easiest counterpoint of all time. How many quarterbacks? Hold on. I think this is like a fun exercise just to extrapolate what I think about Jalen Hurts as a quarterback, okay? How many quarterbacks have you seen commit 2 turnovers in one play? There's a play where he throws a terrible interception. Like, not like it was there's no universe where this ball should have even been thrown. And then he goes and he recovers that the person that intercepted fumbled it. Jalen Hurts recovers it. And you think, hey, maybe I just go down. Maybe I just got lucky. But no, he's going to stand right back up and fumble it himself, and the Chargers end up recovering. I think in last night's game, there were plenty of times where A.J. Brown tried bailing him out, although A.J. Brown also had an egregious, didn't catch the ball and gave up an interception that way. That's not Jalen Hurts at all. But overall, Saquon Barkley let a long rushing touchdown rip. Jalen Hurts had every opportunity to win yesterday's game. Now, mind you, the Chargers, I've already said they're the number 3 defense in the NFL. I think that's a fantastic defense overall. And sure, Jalen Hurts is going to perform a lot better as we go. Like in the NFC, if we're saying that the top 3 defenses are the Texans, the Broncos, the Chargers, and I would argue in that order, all of those teams aren't in the NFC. So as they come to playoff time, Jalen Hurts could have an easier time, but the adversity and how he showed specifically in that game, I do think his game isn't as strong as what we saw last season. I think last season we saw a lot more of when Jalen Hurts needed to get those yards, he was getting it to A.J. Brown whenever he wanted. He was getting it to Devontae Smith whenever he wanted. I think he's actually using Dallas Goedert more this season than he did last season. At least that's a safety valve for him going into this. But I don't have the same confidence in Jalen Hurts this season as other people did last season. And he's going to have to prove it to me because this is a guy who, after last night's game, has a lot that he's got to do to make people feel more comfortable in the way that he manages a game.
Yeah, no argument from me. I mean, he was brutal last night or whatever, last game. So, yeah, he's got a ways to go. I mean, at the end of the day, I go with the larger sample size that I've seen from him, and he's been impressive. You know, he's a contender.
But this whole season has been like he has close games against these teams that shouldn't be in it anyway. I just don't
sometimes.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of it. Yeah.
All right, so you got a couple contenders, I think, there.
Okay. The first one I kind of hate myself for. Sam Darnold on the Seahawks.
Oh, please. He's a
I needed.
pretender. He was a pretender last year. What did he do in the playoffs with Minnesota?
Oh yeah, no,
Collapsed.
I'm with you there. But I do think that this is a better team than when we saw out of Minnesota
But
last
he
season.
is a pretender. He himself
Okay,
is a pretender. He is a seasoned quarterback. That's what this guy
okay.
is. Watch. They're going to go into the playoffs as the 1 or 2 seed, and he's going to get dominated. He's going to do nothing. They're going to shut him down. Sam Darnold is the back in the day Phillip Rivers. Unbelievable in the season. Can't win the big ones. He's
Okay.
exactly the fear that I have about Justin Herbert. It's just Justin
So
Herbert's talent is just off the charts.
so Sam Darnold's data is quite strong. Like he's 6th in passing
Incredible
yards.
stats. Yeah.
He's 7th in completion percentage, and he's 3rd in the league in big time throw percentage, and that's despite Joe Burrow being number 1. By the way, Matthew Stafford's number 2 on that list. That's who I was afraid to mention before because he's on the contender list.
Sam
For the
Darnold,
NFC.
with you naming these stats, it's only helping my argument to be like, this guy's a total pretender. Like he's wearing a straight up mask right now. Like,
So that's how I feel about Jordan Love's data. So at least we can go toe to toe like that. But the thing about Sam Darnold's play style that I love in this situation is he's a deep ball threat. And now you've got JSN, who's completely unstoppable. You've added Rashid Shaheed, who's an absolute stud in being able to get open on that deep route. And Cooper Kupp, he's not as consistent, but like he does add value in that type of situation. But the reason why it works is because of the degree to which the Seattle Seahawks are running the football. Defenses need to respect the Seattle Seahawks run game, which is giving Sam Darnold even more ability to find some of these down the field plays, likely even more so than what the Minnesota Vikings had last season, even though you had dogs in Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson going down the field, because the run game wasn't as consistent as what we're seeing from the Seahawks this season. So I think Sam Darnold is like an absolute stud and at an elite level. No, I'm really not trying to make that claim. But I'm in the NFC and I'm looking at which quarterbacks are potential contenders and have the ability to lead teams in tough moments. I do put him above a lot of the quarterbacks that I'm seeing in the NFC.
I agree, he goes above some, but honestly, to me, the parallels that you could draw between Minnesota last year with Darnold and Seattle with Darnold are just, there's too many parallels. Honestly, I think it's almost the identical situation. I think it's a guy in a good system with an incredible roster around him who shows some incredible stats in the season. And when the big moment comes up in the playoffs, we're going to see who Darnold has always been. Like, he's going to go back to his original, base. This is way above his mean. He did it last year and fell apart, and he's going to do it again and fall apart. To me, actually, I would argue that this entire episode is about a guy like Sam Darnold. Like, this is the exact reason we do this episode, because there are guys that I'm telling you are hiding in plain sight. Sam Darnold could not be a more clear pretender. Like, there isn't a single stat right now on Sam Darnold that would tell you that he's a pretender, but he's going to fail in the big moment, which is exactly what a pretender is. It's someone who's totally fooling you. They're making you think they're legitimate when they're actually not. He is the most pretender of this entire list.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see when the playoffs roll around. I think that it could just be that he's purely a regular season guy and just shrinks when the moment gets bigger, and that's a legit argument. But I do think the things that Sam Darnold is doing with the football suggest he's the kind of guy that's got more than a Bo Nix or this is a guy that is in a different caliber than other people that we're talking about.
And who's the last one?
I had Dak Prescott.
Oh, another big time pretender. Big on the stats, padding those stats, padding those Dallas Cowboys, America's team. He is another massive pretender. Oh my God, what a failure. Highest paid quarterback. Always,
All right,
always
I got a question for you.
flipping the script on everyone.
Who would you rather run your offense right now? Dak Prescott or Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts. Not even a question.
So if you
Zero
have
hesitation.
Jalen Hurts on the Dallas Cowboys with this lineup, do you think Dallas's record is better or worse?
Better.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's close. I think Dak's ability to do some of these down the field reads is not something Jalen Hurts is even capable of.
But there's things that Jalen Hurts can do that he can't do.
Yeah, he
his
can do
running ability, his
he can have
knack
guys
for
touch his tush and make
his
him go
winning
a yard.
DNA ability.
No, like so.
Look, Dak Prescott, I'll give him this. It's not like a Sam Darnold situation. Like, I think Dak Prescott's an actual legitimate good quarterback. Like, I don't think Darnold's a good quarterback. I think
But you have Dak on your pretender list.
I do.
You have Dak on your.
The reason I have him on my pretender list is some of the reasons why I have Darnold, which is in the big moments. I like, outside of what I think was his rookie season, Dak has pretty much always fallen short of expectations. That to me is essentially a pretender. I think he's a guy who, he does a lot in the season. He shows great flashes. He's got a big arm. He makes a lot of great throws. But in the big moments, he just doesn't seem to pull it out. To me, that's a pretender. Failed expectations.
Yeah, I mean, even despite all of the notable CeeDee Lamb's been dropping the ball like crazy this season. Despite all of that, he's still got a 69, let's call it 70% completion percentage.
It's high.
And he's doing that while having the most passing yards in the NFL. So does he have great talent around him? Yeah. I think Pickens, watching Pickens play this season has been an absolute joy. Now, last game, he definitely showed a distinct lack of effort. Richard Sherman absolutely drilled him for it. But realistically, this Dallas Cowboys team, at the very least, give me this, Jake. At the very least, the Dallas Cowboys have become maybe the most fun offense to watch in the NFL.
100%.
And the defense has improved. This Dallas Cowboys team as a team game,
they look better.
Significantly farther ahead now than they were at the beginning of the season.
Oh yeah.
So if I'm in this situation where I'm thinking who are potential contenders, and I'm looking at this NFC East, where Philadelphia isn't that much farther ahead than the Dallas Cowboys.
Tight division.
Hot take here, they might still win the division. I could see a universe where if Jalen Hurts continues to play like this, they're keeping it close with teams they should not be keeping it close with. And this Dallas Cowboys offense plays like this and the defense plays like this. There's a universe here where they take the division from Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is finding themselves much lower on the totem pole.
So here's what we can agree with. Sam Darnold, I think you're going to come around. He's a pretender. And I will agree that Dak Prescott could be put into an honorable mention for contenders. I think
I don't like this negotiation. This brings me still losing the overall argument.
Because I think we've each made a valid case. My case about Darnold is valid because we've seen this. We literally saw him do this exact same thing last year. And Dak Prescott has statistically been pretty impressive based on the numbers you've given me.
I don't have Darnold as a contender because I think he's a contender. I have him as a contender because I trust him more than all of the pretenders that I have in my list, and it's a numbers game.
Fine. So he's not a real legitimate contender, and you agree he's likely going to crumble when the chips are down.
Yeah, he's probably fourth on my list in terms of if I had to rank them. I'd probably go.
Yeah,
I'm probably going Stafford, then Dak, then Goff, then Darnold if I had to rank them.
Okay. Now pretenders. Okay.
Yes. So we talked about Jordan Love. We talked about Jalen Hurts.
We both
had
Darnold
on your list. We both have Baker Mayfield on our list. This is what I was saying before, where I think now that Liam Cohn is out of there, that we're really seeing
The
the
real
game can't
Mayfield.
be as easy for
Yeah.
Baker. I don't think the progressions are nearly as seamless for him.
I
And
think he's
like
falling
scrambling.
he's falling to the mean, right? We've seen the bottom of Baker when he was, like, Carolina, bouncing around. We've seen the top, which was probably last year with Tampa, and I think now he's coming back to that mean. He's coming back to that average, which is he's an average quarterback. He's not bad, he's not great, he's definitely not a contender because he's not consistent, right? I think that's the argument with Baker. It's consistency. We've seen even in this season, we've seen great Baker, we've seen okay Baker, we've seen terrible Baker. He's somewhere in the middle, and he just can't be trusted on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, and then so I think that we agree there. I think we agree on Brock Purdy.
And
Like
Caleb,
the decision. So Caleb, I'm actually kind of mad because I wish we had filmed my current take last week before this Packer. That was such easy money of taking the Packers over the Bears here.
yeah,
Caleb Williams, things should be going so much better for him with Ben Johnson as his coach. Thankfully, they are replicating the Gibbs Montgomery stack with D'Andre Swift and Monangai because I love watching Monangai run, by the way. That guy
ridiculous.
is an absolute
Animal.
like freight train.
Oh, yeah.
He reminds me of like Pacheco at his prime a couple
Oh,
seasons
yeah,
ago, where
hard
like
runner.
hard runner. I love that's why football is anyway. So did your camera just go out of
Oh,
focus?
there we
There we
go.
So yeah. I love this Chicago run game. I can't stand this Caleb Williams pass attack. And this is gonna be my beef with it. This is my take. This is why I think he's the ultimate pretender. And this is why I think Chicago can't succeed, okay? First piece, he's not getting much separation from his receivers. That's fine. Let's just put that to the side for now. He, right now, has the most throwaways
Yeah.
of any quarterback. I think he's tied with Cam Ward, which is hilarious because Cam Ward's a rookie and hasn't learned how to make decisions yet.
And has no one around him.
There's no one around him. Caleb Williams is tied for the most thrown away balls in the NFL. And this is why. Every time he feels a little bit of pressure,
Starts taking off.
he runs to one sideline.
Ridiculous.
And when he does it, what he doesn't realize is happening is he's suddenly cut off half of the field.
Correct.
Because it's not like what Caleb Williams is doing is he's throwing it across his body to the no. What he's doing is he's kind of screwing over his receivers. He's only saying, I'm going to pass to the side of the field that I'm on. And how much easier is that for the defense to defend? If you know, you only have to cover the field where he's begun to scramble to. Everyone adjusts accordingly. There's going to be significantly less separation, and there's going to be no real chance, unless Caleb Williams is lucky enough to be in a situation where he can scramble himself for a first down, to make a big-time throw.
Look, and I love that you bring that up because I know every time I watch him, I'm constantly seeing that. Not only is he scrambling and going oftentimes to the right and then looking to make a throw and obviously chops up the field in half, but he's doing it when he doesn't even need to. Like, there's so many opportunities where he could just step up in the pocket and he's choosing to escape the pocket when he doesn't need to. He's not a rookie. Like, he does and should know better than that. He also has a proper coach scheming proper plays that he should be able to handle. And then to your point about scrambling out to the outside and it limiting the field, and it's all true. There are some quarterbacks that can obviously counter that who have a particularly unbelievable set of skills where they are an incredible runner or have an incredible arm. You know, Josh Allen, we see him do it all the time. Caleb Williams is not Josh Allen, and Caleb Williams is doing it.
Yeah, Josh Allen makes it look way too easy.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams can't do that.
No, and it's not, and I think it's at the clip that he's doing it. He's doing it constantly. So teams are so prepared. Like, Josh Allen does it. He doesn't do it all the time. He does it a couple times a game, and they're in big moments on big plays. It feels like Caleb Williams is doing it at least once every drive. Like, it's It's crazy. And he's doing it in opportunities where he doesn't need to. He's forcing himself into a situation. He's just making his job a lot harder than it needs to be. They always talk about take what the defense gives you. To me, he's not doing that. And then he's trying to make something out of nothing over and over and over again. It just, he's not learning from his mistakes. That's why he's a pretender. Like, at the end of the day, a contender is a guy who shows that they can go above and beyond in certain moments. I'm just not seeing that from Caleb Williams at this point.
So to hammer that point home, Caleb Williams his pressure to sack percentage is 12%. So he's avoiding sacks because he is faster than the rest of the defensive linemen. But take a couple more sacks if it means that on the whole, you're going to stand up in the pocket and find more big time throws to get you down the field. Like if you take one more sack per drive, but as a result, you get 2 or 3 more solid throws in that are at a high enough percentage, that trade-off at a certain point makes sense. And this whole strategy he's doing, it's completely screwed. So he's the second longest holding the ball in the NFL, only behind Shedeur Sanders. He's holding the ball for 3.28 seconds. You're not going through your progressions fast enough. You're not finding what Ben Johnson is scheming for you. You're doing too much. Just keep it simple. Make a good play. Get to the next set of downs.
No one says it more often than Tom Brady. He says it constantly, that guys need to be willing to take sacks. It's okay to take sacks. It's okay for Caleb Williams to take sacks. I know that these guys want to avoid sacks. They want to make great plays. They want to be that leader. They want to put the cape on. Caleb Williams needs to start moving up in the pocket, and sometimes taking a sack is better than running all over the field trying to make some crazy cockamamie play. It's okay to take a sack, Caleb. It's okay. All right, I think we got one more, maybe. Do we have one more pretender? Or is that
No, I think that's it.
Okay.
No, I think you got it.
So, look, I think we can take from this, we both have a lot of contenders, a lot of pretenders. I think we had quite a few that we agreed on. We had quite a few that we disagreed on. So it went the exact way that I was hoping it would go. And I think we can take from this that Josh Allen is still the number 1 quarterback in the NFL. He's the guy that everyone is gunning for in the AFC, and in the NFC, top guy, Matt Stafford. I mean, to me, those are the guys. And I think this is really early on. We'll do this now, and we'll do this at the end of the season going into the playoffs. Who do you have in the playoffs? Who are the 2 quarterbacks that you have in the Super Bowl against each other?
I mean, those are my the 2 quarterbacks I like the most. But if you were to say, hey, Zach, who do you think is going to make the Super Bowl? I actually don't think the quarterback is the only factor at play here. I think that if I had to pick who my favorites are out of the NFC, I have to take the Rams. I think on both sides of the ball, there's an exemplary team. And the thing, if Puka Nacua stays healthy, which is a big if for me because he's got one of the most violent play styles of any receiver in the NFL. I don't think it's a guarantee he stays healthy all the way through it. In the AFC, I really like this Texans defense, but I can't go with them because their quarterback is too trash. I think it's okay, I'm going to do a cop-out answer here. I think the AFC will be won by whoever wins this weekend's game between the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. Whoever wins that game has my stamp of who I think is going to the Super Bowl.
Wow. So that's okay. So the Bills-Patriots game, Sunday, 1 p.m., is going to determine the AFC champion. Wow.
Unless there's some ref garbage that changes the out. Whoever plays better in that game.
Fair. Okay. Yeah. I mean, for me, I think I gotta go Rams, Bills. I think irrespective of what happens in the Bills-Patriots game, I would almost argue that if the Bills lose this game to the Patriots, that the Bills have a better shot to go to the Super Bowl than if they beat the Patriots. I just and it's a silly reason, but this is my
It just
reasoning.
happens to go that way. I know.
The Kansas City Chiefs have always lost
I
to the
know.
Bills in the season, and then they win.
And then they win the play.
It creates an additional hunger that is needed to go to the Super Bowl.
So here's my situation there. If the Bills can shut down Drake Maye enough to win the game, it will prove to me that the Bills defense is playoff ready. However, if that Bills defense cannot stop the Patriots, I think it's emblematic of a potential first round exit where the defense will not be able to stop whatever offense, even if it's a garbage offense like the Houston Texans, that we potentially face in that first round.
Great take. Well, you've heard it from us. Appreciate you listening. If you've been listening this long, it's ridiculous if you haven't subscribed. I mean, you have to subscribe. If you've given us this kind of time in your life, I think you'd be crazy not to. For the main reason that, don't you want to get notifications for all of our content? Don't you want to know when fresh stuff's coming out? Anyways, we are the QB Lab Podcast. Appreciate you all. Peace.